go ahead and grab a buddy so we can go ahead and mark trees that are in, out, and in between. I'm going to hold this over plot center, and I'm going to tell my friend exactly what is in and what is out. This is our north, so we'll be working clockwise and going to our first trees. For me, these first two trees are out, and my first in tree is here. Then we will go ahead and mark them with alternating flag colors so that we make sure to stay in order. My next tree is actually kind of tricky. So it is behind the tree that Maggie just marked. And you may need to orient yourself a little bit. This one's actually pretty easy. Holding this over plot center, and that tree is in for me. Yes. Always make sure to check trees that are large in the background. Sometimes they will surprise you and be in. So I'm actually looking at the tree about 30 feet out or so and checking that as well. For me, that tree is actually out. There's a gap, so we will not mark that tree. The next tree is the smaller, thinner tree that's closer to the plot center, and we'll mark that as a borderline tree, so that gets 2 flags. Maggie, can I get 2? The next tree that is in for me is actually one to the right, that tree there. And swinging the prism all the way around, making sure to really stay on over plot center. Then I have a large tree that's very obviously in for me. Great. And then making sure we're checking all of the trees in the background. They all seem to be a little thin, and I'm going to consider those out. There's a gap in the prism. The next tree that is in for me is this tree here. Yes, Maggie, great. Then I see kind of a large twisted tree in the back. I'm going to check that too. It's out, but the tree in front is actually in. You need blue. After that, I'm going to keep swinging the prism, and I have another borderline tree. All right, and then finishing up the plot as I'm kind of going back towards north clockwise, I have one last final tree that's in, and it is right there. Perfect.
Along with using a prism, you can also use a fixed radius plot to record tree species. So what we do here is we're using 1/10 acre of a radius, so 37.2 feet. And any tree that's within that radius, we are going to record. So I'm gonna start by stretching out in the north direction and seeing which trees I run into first. And those will be my first tree, and I'll go clockwise from there, and each tree that I hit next after that with my tape measurer, that's the trees we're going to record in that order. Okay. So now I'm going to stretch out to 37.2 feet in the north direction. I'm going to start walking. So I'm at 37.2 feet. I thought this would be my first tree, but it's actually not, because 37.2 feet is here. So our first tree is actually going to be this ponderosa. It's within our fixed radius. And again, we're going to record the species, whether it's live or dead. We're going to record the DBH, the height, and the CBH, crown base height.
So for each tree that we come across in the plot, we're going to measure a number of different things. First of all, we figure out which species it is, then the status of it, is it live or dead, then the DBH, the height, and the crown base height.
This is our first tree. We're gonna go ahead and measure 4.5 feet, which is DBH, that stands for diameter at breast height. You're gonna start by getting on the uphill side of the tree and making sure to kick away any remaining litter. Then using your measuring tape, marking 4.5 feet on the tree. Okay. And then from there, we can use our DBH tape. It has this really great nail, and we stick it into the bark, and we'll go ahead and measure around the tree. Make sure that you keep your tape straight. We want it to be level and not like slightly up the tree or slightly down the tree at an angle. And then on top of that, making sure that your tape is nice and flat, no twists. And we'll take the measurement of this tree, make sure this is nice and snug. And as you can see, this tree is 16.4. So you really want to match this 0 mark here with your mark on the top part of the tape, as that's where the measurement starts.
So whenever we have a borderline tree, what we need to do is, depending on our BAF, we need to multiply a constant by our DBH. So with a 10 BAF prism, we would multiply the DBH of our tree by 2.75. And with a 20 BAF prism, we would multiply the DBH of our tree by 1.94. This is gonna give us a specific type of length in feet. So it'll give us like 20 feet, 30 feet. That is the limiting distance of the tree. If the distance of the tree is greater than the limiting distance calculation, then the tree is out and we don't count it. If the distance of the tree is less than the limiting distance calculation, then the tree is in and we do count it. So we calculated this tree as a borderline tree. So Maggie is going to get the DBH of this tree. 15.8. So I am going to multiply, since we use a 10 BAF prism, 15.8 by 2.75, and I got 43.45 feet. So now I'm going to stretch the DBH tape to my plot center, and Maggie's going to measure the distance of the tree, and we're going to see if it's in or out. So when we measured that distance, we got 40 feet. Since 40 is less than 43.45, that means this tree is in, and we will count it in our data.
These are rangefinders, and you're going to use these to get height of trees. So when you're getting a measurement of a tree, you're going to want to be at the same incline as the tree or above on the slope. You're never gonna wanna be below slope because you just get inaccurate numbers if you do that. So when you're looking at a tree, you're gonna first take one shot at eye level on the tree, and that's gonna be your first distance. And after that point, you're gonna get the base of the tree, and that's gonna be your first angle. And you're gonna get the top of the tree, and that's gonna be your second angle. Next thing we take is CBH, which is crown at base height. That's basically the lowest point on a tree where there is needles. So in the case of that tree, the needles are pretty low. You can estimate that with like maybe your own height. I'd say that's like 6 feet off the ground. But for that tree over there, those needles are pretty high up off the ground. So I'm gonna go ahead and shoot that. It's pretty much the same thing when you're getting height. You're gonna shoot at eye level on the tree. You're gonna shoot the bottom of the tree, but instead of the top of the tree, you're gonna shoot at the lowest needle that you can see. And it has to be a live needle, so green. And for this crown base height, I got 16 feet.